Hello and welcome to another modelling video. This is Alan from the McConaughey at YouTube with another model video. In another effort in completing my pile of half-finished projects and poorly documented video introductions, I have this Bandai high-grade Geara Zulu, purchased second-hand in a questionable state with additional parts thrown in as extras. I obviously had some interesting ideas and added a gun cannon onto the backpack. Awkwardly, I cannot remember if I bought this and snap fitted it or if someone else bought it and built it and I've kind of somehow taken over it. I would narrow this fact down to a small group of people as many of the parts were glued together in preparation of seamline filling. I promptly dismantled the kit into individual parts and separated them out. With an array of sandpapers, conveniently with the grits written down, I've started sanding down any nubs, imperfections and issues that was done by the previous modeler. Yes, I'm going to blame everything on someone else. Parts that have not been worked on, such as this machine gun, has had its nubs removed. Sanded down from 200 to 800 grit sandpaper wet, then plastic cemented together in the hope of filling the seam later on. The other parts would have gone through a similar process. I believe this was abandoned somewhere around 2015. A lot of flat surfaces have also been buffed up for greater adhesion during priming. I vaguely remember coming in contact with this model at a bayonet military model show. As this project is quite messy and annoying, I do apologise in the senseless way this video is being approached. I stored it in the interesting manner of a plastic cup or bags as it was being worked in at my workplace of a night shift. Something to do while bored and unproductive. Pediment marker was extremely handy in marking out all the seam lines to remind me where to do extra work, and with Mr. Dissolved Putty, a fantastic product, and micro Q-tips, I filled out all of these surfaces and just let them sit around to solidify and chemically hardened, ready for sanding. Strangely enough, one of the foot marks also had a massive gorge mark from something like a heating implement or Dremel. You could start sanding this product in a matter of hours, but I find if it hasn't cured or chemically hardened enough, you're just pushing the putty around and scar the plastic even further. I like to allow 24 hours or longer and sand everything from the hard plastic to the putty down to a single surface and start buffing it with finer and finer products. In the effort for definition and detail, I got the pin vise out, made a mark with a knife and drilled out a few holes that were shallowy injection molded. After painting and washing, it should seem deeper and cast greater shadows or give it more of an illusion of a machine rather than a plastic toy. A lot of people have OCD and like the idea of scale modelling as everything is laid out from the box art to instructions and they can follow the steps and it's finished. If you start it and sell a model incomplete, this can throw people off and it loses almost all value. It's not too bad, but the big shield was ruined as it was glued together. And wanting to do something a bit different with the cannon, I decided to 3D print the Zaku Desert Shield that I've been experimenting with my salt mine line and created a polycap joint using green stuff putty. All the parts were then separated in colour coding or how I'd wish to paint it. Brown and desert colours can be a bit tricky, so I'm going to do many different shades. The first step was obviously looking for faults and covering everything in automotive grey primer via airbrush. And it came out pretty good. A lot of the prep work and making the kit my own, rescribing of panels and sanding worked out in the first go, and I didn't have to go over anything else, which was fantastic. But the big challenge was to give this model a bit of a vintage flair and make brown or sand works, and a good art friend of mine reckons that any straight up brown painted mobile suit kind of looks like a turd. So I got around this with multiple shades of gradients of sand, browns and yellows to really throw light and definition across it. Instead of everything in the typical 3 color shades over the majority of the armor parts, I broke it up into 3 parts and chose out something like 8 to 12 different colors and blended them all together to have various different tones and shades at different points of the armor, like it's wearing out or the paint has been applied in different stages. And this step has been very rewarding. Came out far more modular, rustic, and plays more on light being thrown around with edging of various brown or metallic black gunmetal metallics. Little bits of hand painted detail here and there were nice highlight, and as there never really been any sleeves, Earth mobile suits or anything of the sort, I color swapped some aspects like the sleeve highlights from gold to silver, which popped beautifully. A Gundam kit is made up of many small parts, and it can be a bit daunting to approach it, especially something larger like a master grade or even bigger kits. And how I always like to approach this is break it down into small parts and treat each part of it as its own individual kit, or I'm painting a much smaller project, bag it up, and I feel that I've accomplished something. Doing this with many different colors and slightly different shades, this was very easy going, and in between other models I was working on and had a 45 minute or a 2-hour session, I was able to get 1 or 2 clusters done very easy, quickly, did the weathering, did the final matte or finish coat, called it done, put it back in the bag and forgot about it. Some of the barriers that we do come across in this hobby is definitely mental blocks, and it can be discouraging and avoiding much interesting ideas, big projects, or other skills like resin, 3D printing, decals, or even weathering to a set extent. This project was being a menace on my workbench for quite a few months, and the advantage was at different painting stages it did dry and chemically harden in many stages, and when it came to assembling, chipping paint and damage wasn't an issue. I used PVA glue for permanent fixation of pegs to connectors, and it all held out quite well. After that dried over 24 hours, everything was snap fit into place. It may sound like I was complaining and had trouble for 99% of the time, but to be absolutely honest and brutal, enjoyed and loved the entirety of the process. The Geara Zulu and most of the line from the Unicorn range of Bandai Gundam kits are fantastic models, and this just really off nicely. You don't even have to do too much to the kit besides detailing, and it really comes together well. With a full view foreign parts such as the 3D printed shield and cannon, a color swap, and you've got almost an entirely different machine by design. Released earlier in the 2010s, it is an older kit and does require a bit of work and polishing up with all of those seam lines darted throughout of the kit, but it's nothing that's too difficult for anyone that's actually spent a serious amount of time scale modeling and with full intent of painting a project. It is your standard fare HGUC kit with detail, articulation, color separation and all that. A little hand painting and masking does go a long way, but this is a project that could easily be attempted by beginners to people who are very seasoned to painting and putty work. Very pleased with my achievement and happy to put this in competitions or show it off. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, until next time, stay tuned for further content and we'll catch you guys next time. See you later.